My dear brothers and sisters, before you go any further, let me ask you something very gently. Why did this video find you at this exact moment in your life? You were not searching for it. You were not planning to hear this, yet here you are. And that alone should make you pause. Because there are thousands of videos you could have clicked on, thousands of voices you could have listened to, but something inside you pulled you here. And that pull is not random. There is a quiet feeling many of you have been carrying, a feeling you cannot fully explain to people around you, a sense that you are slowly being pulled away from the world you once belonged to. You still walk among people, you still smile, you still live your life, but inside something feels different. Conversations feel lighter than your thoughts. Rooms feel louder than your heart. And places that once felt like home now feel temporary. And you have been asking yourself in silence, what is happening to me? My dear brothers and sisters, listen to me carefully. This is not loneliness. This is not loss. This is not you falling behind in life. This is Allah creating space in your world so He can step closer into your heart. Because when Allah wants to change a person, He does not always change their circumstances. He changes their attachments. And when attachments change, everything else begins to move. So if you feel like you are being pulled away from people, from noise, from distractions, from a life that once felt familiar, do not rush to escape that feeling. Sit with it, because what you are about to hear may explain something about your life that you have felt but never had words for. And if you stay with me until the end, you may realize that this season you thought was empty is actually one of the most meaningful signs of Allah's attention in your entire life. This distance is Allah quieting your world so you can hear His guidance. My dear brothers and sisters, the world we live in is not just loud with sound. It is loud with pressure, loud with comparison, loud with expectations that are placed on your shoulders before you even realize you are carrying them. From the moment you wake up, you are surrounded by messages telling you who you should be, how fast you should move, what you should own, how successful you should look, and how happy you should appear. And slowly, without noticing, your heart becomes crowded. Not crowded with peace, not crowded with remembrance of Allah, but crowded with the voices of people, the images of others' lives, and the weight of measuring yourself against standards that were never written for your soul. When the heart is crowded like this, guidance becomes difficult to recognize. It is not that Allah stops guiding you, it is that the heart becomes too busy to listen. So sometimes in His mercy, Allah does something very gentle and very powerful. He quiets your world. This does not always happen in a dramatic way. There is no announcement. There is no clear moment where you can say, this is when everything changed. Instead, it often feels slow, almost unnoticeable at first. You might realize that fewer people call you, that your phone stays silent longer than it used to, that conversations you once enjoyed now feel shallow or tiring, that places you used to feel comfortable in now make you feel out of place. And naturally, your mind begins to ask painful questions. Did I do something wrong? Did people forget me? Am I becoming less important? But my dear brothers and sisters, what if this is not about becoming less important? What if this is about becoming more aware? Sometimes Allah removes noise not because you are losing value, but because He is protecting something valuable inside you. Think about this carefully. When something is fragile, it is not placed in a busy, chaotic space. It is placed somewhere safe, somewhere quiet, somewhere protected. Your heart is fragile in ways you may not always see. It is affected by what it hears, what it watches, what it compares itself to, and what it is constantly exposed to. So when Allah wants your heart to grow in the right direction, He may reduce what it is exposed to. You may find yourself stepping back from certain people not because they harmed you, but because being around them no longer feeds your soul. You may feel less interested in conversations that revolve around gossip, complaints, or constant competition. You may notice that your tolerance for noise, drama, and unnecessary stress becomes smaller. And you might think, why am I changing? But perhaps the better question is, why is my heart becoming more sensitive to what does not bring me closer to Allah? In the quiet that Allah creates, something beautiful begins to happen. You start to hear yourself. Not the version of yourself that performs for people, not the version of yourself that tries to fit in, impress or please, but the version of yourself that sits alone at night and thinks about the kind of life you are living and the kind of life you want to answer for before Allah. You begin to notice what truly gives you peace and what only gives you temporary distraction. You begin to recognize which relationships leave you feeling closer to Allah and which ones leave you feeling empty, even if they look good on the outside. This kind of awareness does not come from being constantly surrounded by people. It comes from stillness. In stillness, you begin to reflect, you begin to ask deeper questions. Questions like, why do I chase what I chase? Why does this matter so much to me? What am I afraid of losing? What am I hoping to gain? These are not comfortable questions, but they are honest ones. And honesty with yourself is one of the doors to guidance. My dear brothers and sisters, there is something important you should understand about how Allah guides. He does not always guide by giving you something new. Sometimes He guides by taking something away, not to hurt you, not to punish you, but to make space. Space for clarity, space for sincerity, space for a deeper connection with Him. You may notice that in this quieter season, your prayers feel different. You may find yourself speaking to Allah in a more personal way, not just reciting words, but opening your heart. You may begin to feel your dependence on Him more strongly because the usual sources of comfort and distraction are no longer as available. And this is not weakness, this is reliance. This is the heart slowly learning where its true support comes from. When everything around you becomes quiet, you start to realize how loud your need for Allah really is. You start to understand that people can come and go, attention can rise and fall, circumstances can change, but Allah remains. And this realization brings a kind of peace that no crowd can give you. My dear brothers and sisters, sometimes the quiet feels uncomfortable because it forces you to face parts of yourself you were too busy to notice before. You may become aware of habits you want to change, attitudes you want to soften, sins you want to leave behind, dreams you want to realign with something more meaningful. This is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are becoming conscious. And consciousness is the beginning of transformation. In the noise of the world, it is easy to live on automatic, to wake up, go through the motions, chase what everyone else is chasing and fall asleep without ever asking if your life is moving toward Allah or just moving in circles. But in the quiet, you begin to see your life as a journey, not just a routine. You begin to recognize that every day is not just another day to survive, but another day to grow, to improve, to become a person who is more sincere, more patient, more grateful, and more mindful of Allah. This is why this distance you feel is not something to fear. It is something to understand. Allah is not pushing you away from the world to make you lonely. He is pulling you closer to your purpose. He is inviting you to step out of the constant noise and step into a space where your heart can realign with what truly matters. And let me tell you something from a place of care. Not everyone is given this kind of moment. Some people spend their entire lives surrounded by noise, distraction, and constant movement, and they never pause long enough to ask why they are living the way they are. But you have been given a pause. You have been given a moment of quiet. And in that quiet, Allah is offering you something precious. He is offering you the chance to know yourself better. And through knowing yourself, to know Him more deeply. So if you feel this distance, do not rush to fill it with anything and everything just to avoid the discomfort of being alone with your thoughts. Sit with it, reflect in it, pray in it. Because this space may be the very place where your heart becomes lighter, your faith becomes stronger, and your direction becomes clearer. Guidance does not always arrive as a sudden, powerful moment that changes everything overnight. More often, it arrives as a gentle, steady shift. A shift in what you care about, a shift in what you tolerate, a shift in what you seek. And one day, you will look back and realize that this season of quiet was not a season of loss. It was a season of alignment. A season where Allah was slowly, lovingly, and carefully tuning your heart so that when He speaks to you through His signs, His words, and His guidance, you are finally able to hear Him clearly. Some people cannot follow you into the life Allah is building for you. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most difficult truths to accept in life is this: not every person who begins a journey with you is meant to finish it with you. This is not because people are bad, and it is not because you are becoming better than them. It is because every soul is on its own path, and sometimes those paths move in different directions. When Allah begins to shape your heart, your vision and your purpose, something subtle starts to change inside you. You may not be able to explain it clearly at first, but you feel it. What once felt normal begins to feel heavy. What once felt exciting begins to feel empty. What once felt acceptable begins to feel uncomfortable. And this is where distance begins. Not always through arguments, not always through betrayal, sometimes through silence, through less effort, through fewer shared moments, through a quiet realization that the connection you once had no longer fits the person you are becoming. This can be deeply painful because human beings are not just attached to people, they are attached to memories, to shared laughter, to the version of themselves that existed in those relationships. Letting go of a person often feels like letting go of a part of your own past. But my dear brothers and sisters, understand this gently and with wisdom. Allah does not build your future using the tools of your past. Every new chapter in your life requires a different kind of strength, a different kind of patience, and a different kind of awareness. The people who were perfect for you in one chapter may not have the ability, the understanding, or the intention to walk with you in the next. And that does not make them wrong. It simply means the road is changing. Think about how a child outgrows their clothes. The clothes did nothing wrong. They served their purpose at the right time. But as the child grows, what once fit comfortably begins to feel tight, restrictive, and uncomfortable. In the same way, as your heart grows, some relationships begin to feel smaller. You may start to notice that certain conversations revolve around things that no longer matter to you. You may find that some environments pull you back into habits you are trying to leave behind. You may feel that some people only recognize the old version of you and resist the new one you are trying to become. And this creates tension inside your heart. Because on one hand, you want to honor the past, you want to be loyal, you want to hold on to what once felt meaningful. But on the other hand, you feel a pull towards something deeper, something more aligned with your faith, your values, and your purpose. This is where many people become stuck. They remain in spaces that no longer help them grow because they are afraid of what it means to move on. But my dear brothers and sisters, growth often feels like loss before it feels like gain. When Allah begins to prepare you for something greater, He becomes careful about what and who has access to your heart. Not because people are the enemy, but because your heart is the place where your intentions, your motivations, and your relationship with Allah live. And what you surround your heart with shapes the person you become. You may notice that as you try to become more mindful of Allah, more disciplined in your actions, more sincere in your character, some people become uncomfortable around you. Not because you are doing anything wrong, but because your change highlights their own choices. And this can create distance, not always intentionally, sometimes unconsciously. You may find that you are no longer invited to certain gatherings, or that your presence feels different in certain rooms, or that conversations grow awkward when you speak about things that matter to your faith and your values. And again, your heart may ask, why am I being pushed away? But what if you are not being pushed away? What if you are being pulled forward? Allah is not removing people to punish you. He is making room for the person you are becoming. Sometimes, if the same people stayed close, they would keep seeing you as who you used to be, not who you are trying to become. They would remind you of old habits, old mistakes, old labels that no longer define you. And this can make it harder for you to step into a new identity. Distance, in this sense, becomes a form of mercy. It gives you space to grow without constantly being pulled back into old versions of yourself. My dear brothers and sisters, there is something important you should understand about purpose. Purpose is not just about what you do, it is about who you become. And who you become is deeply influenced by who you walk with. If Allah is preparing you for a life that requires stronger faith, deeper patience, greater responsibility, and higher character, He will naturally begin to align your surroundings with that future. This does not always mean He will bring new people immediately. Sometimes there is a season where it feels like there is no one, and that season can feel lonely. But it is often a season of transition, a space between what was and what will be. A space where Allah works quietly, shaping your heart, strengthening your reliance on Him, and preparing you to meet the people who will support the next stage of your journey. My dear brothers and sisters, do not underestimate the power of this transition. It is in this space that you learn to stand without leaning too heavily on others. It is in this space that you learn to find comfort in Allah rather than in constant company. It is in this space that you begin to build a sense of self that is not defined by who is around you, but by who you are before Allah. And this kind of strength changes the way you walk through the world. You become less desperate for approval, less afraid of being misunderstood, less dependent on being included. Because you begin to understand that your value does not come from how many people walk with you. It comes from how sincerely you walk with Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also a lesson in how Allah separates without creating hatred. Notice how often distance happens quietly, not through fights, not through dramatic endings, but through gradual change, through less contact, through different priorities, through life pulling people in different directions. This is a gentle form of separation, one that allows you to move forward without carrying bitterness in your heart. And this is important, because Allah does not want you to grow while holding resentment. He wants you to grow with peace. You can appreciate what a relationship once was without needing it to continue forever. You can be grateful for the role someone played in your life without expecting them to play every role in your future. This understanding brings maturity to the heart. It teaches you to hold people with open hands rather than tight fists. My dear brothers and sisters, when you begin to accept that not everyone can follow you into the life Allah is building for you, something inside you relaxes. You stop trying to drag people forward. You stop trying to explain your growth to those who are not ready to understand it. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable, and instead you focus on walking the path Allah has placed in front of you with humility, with patience, with trust. And let me share this with you gently. The people who are meant to walk with you in your next chapter will recognize you not by your past, but by your purpose. They will not be threatened by your growth. They will not be uncomfortable with your values. They will not feel left behind by your progress. They will walk beside you, not hold you back. And when those people enter your life, you will understand why the earlier distance was necessary. You will see that Allah was not taking something away from you. He was preparing space for something better aligned with who you were becoming. So if you feel this shift in your relationships, do not rush to label it as loss. Look at it as movement. Movement toward a life that is more sincere. Movement toward a heart that is more grounded. Movement toward a connection with Allah that is deeper and more personal. Because in the end, my dear brothers and sisters, the most important companion on your journey is not the person walking beside you. It is the one guiding your steps. And when you walk with that awareness, you will never truly walk alone. Allah is teaching you to stand strong with Him before you stand with anyone. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a kind of strength that comes from being surrounded by people. It is the strength of support, encouragement, and shared effort. But there is another kind of strength that is deeper, quieter, and far more powerful. It is the strength that comes from knowing, without any doubt, that even if no one else stands with you, Allah does. Many people build their sense of security on who is around them. They feel strong when they are surrounded by friends, family, and approval. They feel confident when they are understood, included, and supported by others. But what happens when that fades? What happens when the messages slow down? When the rooms feel emptier, when the familiar voices are no longer there to reassure you? This is often the moment when people feel lost. But my dear brothers and sisters, this is also the moment when Allah begins to teach you something priceless. He teaches you how to stand, not because people are unimportant, but because people are not permanent. Human support can change, circumstances can shift, relationships can evolve, but Allah remains constant. So when Allah gently pulls you away from constant company, He is not abandoning you. He is inviting you into a deeper relationship with Him. In this quieter space, you begin to notice your own heart more clearly. You begin to recognize how much of your sense of worth was tied to how others saw you. You begin to realize how often you measured your success by the reactions of people rather than by your sincerity before Allah. This awareness can feel uncomfortable because it challenges the way you have been living. You may start to ask yourself, if no one was watching me, would I still make the same choices? If no one praised me, would I still do the same good? If no one knew about my struggles, would I still turn to Allah in the same way? These are not easy questions, but they are powerful ones. They lead you toward a kind of faith that is not dependent on an audience. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a beauty in worship that no one else sees. The quiet prayer when everyone else is asleep. The silent dua whispered when no one is around. The moment you choose patience over anger when no one would have blamed you for reacting. These moments shape your soul more than any public display of faith ever could. And Allah values these moments deeply. When you stand alone with Him, you begin to experience what sincerity truly feels like. Not the sincerity of being seen as a good person, but the sincerity of wanting to be close to Allah even when no one else knows. This is why Allah sometimes allows you to feel alone, because in that feeling you discover a companionship that is greater than any human connection. You discover that you can speak to Allah about things you cannot explain to anyone else. You can cry in a way that does not need to be understood. You can express fear, hope, regret, and gratitude without worrying about how it will be received. And this creates a bond that is deeply personal. My dear brothers and sisters, when you begin to stand strong with Allah, something inside you changes. You become less shaken by the opinions of people, less dependent on their approval, less afraid of their rejection, because you start to understand that the one who truly matters already knows your intentions, your struggles, and your efforts. This does not make you cold or distant from people. It makes you grounded. You can care without clinging. You can love without losing yourself. You can give without emptying your soul. This balance is a sign of inner strength, and that strength is built in the quiet moments between you and Allah. There is another lesson in this season that is easy to overlook. When you are not constantly surrounded by others, you are forced to face your own thoughts, your own fears, and your own hopes. You can no longer distract yourself with noise and activity. You begin to sit with questions like, what am I really afraid of? What do I truly want from my life? What am I avoiding by staying busy? And in those moments of reflection, Allah begins to guide you from the inside, not through dramatic signs, but through a growing sense of clarity. You start to notice what brings you peace and what steals it. You begin to recognize patterns in your behavior that you want to change. You become more aware of how you speak, how you react, and how you treat others. This kind of self-awareness is a form of guidance. And it often comes when the world becomes quiet around you. My dear brothers and sisters, standing strong with Allah does not mean you will never feel weak. It means you know where to turn when you do. It means you understand that your strength does not come from pretending you have everything under control. It comes from admitting sincerely that you need Allah in every part of your life. In moments of success, you turn to Him in gratitude. In moments of failure, you turn to Him in humility. In moments of confusion, you turn to Him for clarity. This constant turning builds a relationship that is steady, even when everything else feels uncertain. And this steadiness becomes visible in the way you live. You move through challenges with more patience. You handle disappointment with more grace. You face criticism with more calm. Not because you are unaffected, but because you are anchored in the knowledge that your worth is not decided by the moment you are in, but by the one you belong to. My dear brothers and sisters, there is something deeply freeing about this kind of connection with Allah. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself to everyone. You no longer feel pressured to fit into every space. You no longer feel desperate to be understood by people who are not willing to listen. because you have found a place where you are fully seen, fully known, and fully accepted. And that place is with Allah. This does not mean you stop valuing relationships. It means you stop placing them above your relationship with Him. You stop expecting people to give you what only Allah can give. You stop asking human hearts to carry the weight of your ultimate hopes and fears. And when you make this shift, your relationships become healthier. You can appreciate people without idolizing them. You can accept their limitations without resentment. You can enjoy their presence without depending on it for your sense of self. This is the kind of emotional and spiritual maturity that grows when you learn to stand strong with Allah first. My dear brothers and sisters, one day you will look back at this season of quiet, this season of feeling pulled away, and you will realize something beautiful. You were not being emptied, you were being filled with a deeper trust, filled with a calmer heart, filled with a clearer sense of who you are and what you stand for. And when people re-enter your life, when new relationships form, when new opportunities appear, you will walk into them differently. Not as someone searching to be held up by others, but as someone who is already standing, supported by Allah. And this changes everything, because when you stand strong with Him, you can stand anywhere in the world without losing yourself. You can walk through praise without becoming proud. You can walk through criticism without becoming broken. You can walk through success without forgetting who gave it to you. And you can walk through loss without forgetting who remains with you. So if you feel this season of quiet, this sense of being pulled away, do not rush to fill it. Let it teach you. Let it strengthen you. Let it draw you closer to Allah. Because in learning to stand with Him, you are learning a kind of strength that will carry you through every season of your life. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, is a gift more valuable than any company the world could ever offer. What feels like isolation is actually Allah protecting your destiny. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a difference between being alone and being protected. To the human heart, both can feel the same at first. Both can feel like emptiness. Both can feel like space that used to be filled by people, places, and routines. But in the wisdom of Allah, these two experiences carry very different meanings. When you are alone because the world has turned away from you, the heart feels abandoned. But when you are alone because Allah has stepped in front of you, the heart is being guarded. Many of the things that shape your life do not arrive loudly. They arrive quietly, slowly, and often without explanation. And one of the quietest tools Allah uses to protect you is distance. You may not see a danger. You may not recognize a harm. You may not realize what could have happened if you stayed where you were. But Allah sees what you cannot. He sees what certain environments would turn you into. He sees what certain relationships would slowly take from you. He sees what certain paths would cost you in ways you may never recover from. So sometimes, instead of sending a warning, He sends a feeling of not belonging anymore. A feeling of discomfort in places you once felt at home. A feeling of heaviness in connections that once felt light. And that feeling becomes the door through which He moves you. At first, you may resist it. You may try to hold on to what is familiar, even when it no longer feels right. You may tell yourself that this discomfort is just in your mind, that you should not overthink it, that you should stay where you are because it is easier than stepping into the unknown. But my dear brothers and sisters, ease is not always safety. Comfort is not always protection. Sometimes the most dangerous place for your soul is the place where you feel most comfortable ignoring what you are becoming. Allah protects in ways that do not always feel gentle at the moment. Distance can feel sharp. It can feel like something is being taken from you. It can feel like you are being set aside while others move forward. But what if, in reality, Allah is moving something out of your way so that your future is not shaped by something that cannot carry the weight of who you are meant to become? Think about this carefully. Your destiny is not just about where you end up. It is about who you become along the way. And who you become is shaped by what you allow close to your heart. This is why Allah sometimes steps in and creates separation before you even realize you need it. You may not see the argument that would have broken you. You may not see the disappointment that would have changed the way you trust. You may not see the influence that would have slowly pulled you away from your values. But Allah sees all of it. So He moves you, not with force, but with a quiet sense of distance, a quiet sense of withdrawal, a quiet sense that something no longer fits. And in that quiet, your destiny is being protected. My dear brothers and sisters, let me share something with you gently. Not every door that opens in your life is meant for you to walk through. Some doors are tests of your awareness. Some opportunities are tests of your patience. Some relationships are tests of your boundaries. And if you walk through every open door without asking where it leads, you may find yourself far from where your heart was meant to be. This is why Allah sometimes closes doors without explanation. He does not always tell you what He saved you from. He simply saves you. And later, sometimes much later, you look back and realize that what felt like a loss was actually a rescue. Isolation in this sense is not about being cut off from people. It is about being cut off from what could have harmed your future. You may feel that your circle has become smaller, that fewer people have access to your time, your energy, your thoughts, and your emotions. And this can feel lonely. But ask yourself this: how many times did you give pieces of yourself to people who did not know how to carry them? How many times did you stay in places that slowly drained your strength, your focus, and your peace? Protection often looks like reduction. Allah reduces what surrounds you so that what remains can be more meaningful, more sincere, and more aligned with your purpose. In this quieter space, you begin to notice something important. You begin to move more carefully. You choose more thoughtfully. You speak more intentionally, because you are no longer constantly influenced by the noise of others. This is how inner strength grows. This is how wisdom develops. This is how you learn to walk through the world with awareness rather than reaction. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also something deeply humbling about being protected by Allah. It reminds you that you do not see everything. It reminds you that your understanding is limited. It teaches you to trust even when you do not have answers. You begin to realize that not knowing why something ended is sometimes part of the protection. If you knew everything Allah saved you from, your heart might become heavy with fear. So He lets you move forward with peace instead. And that peace becomes a shield. There is another layer to this protection that many people overlook. Sometimes Allah is not just protecting your future, He is protecting your faith. Certain environments make it harder to remember Him. Certain relationships make it easier to compromise what you believe. Certain paths slowly shift your priorities away from what truly matters. And these shifts often happen quietly, not dramatically. You do not wake up one day and decide to move away from Allah. It happens through small choices, small compromises, small distractions. So Allah steps in early. He creates a feeling of discomfort before the damage is done. He creates distance before the heart becomes too attached. He creates space before the soul becomes too tired to turn back. This is mercy, even when it feels like loss. My dear brothers and sisters, in this season of feeling isolated, there is an invitation hidden inside it. An invitation to strengthen your connection with Allah. An invitation to build a life that is guided from the inside, not pushed from the outside. An invitation to discover who you are when you are not constantly reacting to others. You begin to see your own values more clearly. You begin to define your own standards. You begin to make decisions based on what brings you closer to Allah, not what brings you closer to approval. And this changes the way you move through the world. You become less easily influenced, less easily pulled into drama, less easily shaken by trends and opinions, because you are anchored in something deeper. My dear brothers and sisters, one day, perhaps not soon, but one day, you will look back at this season of isolation and realize that it was not a punishment. It was a shield. It was Allah standing between you and something that would have taken you further from who you were meant to become. You will see that what you thought you lost was never meant to stay. And what stayed with you, your faith, your character, your connection with Allah became stronger because of the distance. So if today you feel alone, do not rush to fill that space with just anything and anyone. Treat it with respect. Because this space may be where Allah is working most closely with your heart. This space may be where your future is being quietly protected. And let me leave you with this gentle reminder. Allah does not protect everyone in the same way. Some people are warned, some people are taught, and some people are simply moved. If you feel that you have been moved, even when you did not ask to be, take comfort in this. It may be a sign that Allah cares deeply about where you are going. And He is making sure that nothing stands in the way of the destiny He has written for you. The pain of being pulled away is the birth of your inner authority. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a kind of pain that feels different from all others. It is not sharp like loss. It is not loud like conflict. It is quiet, slow, and heavy in the chest. It is the pain of realizing that you no longer belong where you once felt at home. It is the pain of feeling out of place in rooms that once welcomed you. It is the pain of being pulled away from people, habits, and spaces that used to define your sense of comfort. And this pain confuses the heart, because the human heart naturally looks for belonging. It looks for connection. It looks for reassurance that it is seen, valued, and wanted. So when that feeling begins to fade, the heart asks, what did I lose? But my dear brothers and sisters, sometimes the question is not what you lost. Sometimes the question is what you are gaining. There is something Allah wants to build inside you that cannot be formed in constant closeness to people. There is a strength He wants to place within you that cannot grow when your sense of worth is always reflected back to you by the reactions of others. This is where inner authority begins. Inner authority is not about control. It is not about pride. It is not about standing above others. It is about standing within yourself. It is about knowing who you are before Allah, even when no one else is watching, even when no one else is agreeing, even when no one else is standing beside you. But to reach that place, the heart must pass through a kind of separation. Because as long as you are surrounded by constant approval, constant feedback, constant presence, it is easy to let others define you. You become what is accepted. You become what is praised. You become what is welcomed. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop asking who you truly are meant to be. My dear brothers and sisters, when Allah begins to pull you away, it often feels like something is being taken from you. You may feel less needed, less included, less relevant in certain circles. And this can hurt deeply, especially if you built your sense of value on being present, available, and important in the lives of others. But this is where Allah is doing something profound. He is gently removing the mirrors you used to look into. Mirrors that reflected your worth based on how useful you were, how liked you were, how involved you were, how visible you were. And when those mirrors disappear, you are left with one reflection. The reflection of who you are alone with Allah. This is not an easy moment, because now you must face questions you were able to avoid before. Questions like, who am I when I am not needed? Who am I when I am not invited? Who am I when I am not being praised or recognized? Who am I when it is just me, my thoughts, and my Lord? These questions can feel uncomfortable, but they are the doorway to something powerful. They are the doorway to self-respect that does not depend on attention. They are the doorway to confidence that does not rise and fall with people's opinions. They are the doorway to dignity that is rooted in faith, not in social position. This is the birth of inner authority. My dear brothers and sisters, inner authority means you begin to make decisions not based on what will keep you included, but based on what will keep you sincere. You begin to speak not to be liked, but to be honest. You begin to act not to be admired, but to be aligned with what pleases Allah. And this changes the way you move through the world. You become quieter, not because you have less to say, but because you no longer feel the need to prove yourself. You become more selective, not because you think you are better than others, but because you respect the space Allah has created in your life. You become more grounded, because your sense of self is no longer floating in the hands of people. It is anchored in your relationship with Allah. But my dear brothers and sisters, this transformation does not happen without pain. The pain comes from letting go of the version of yourself that was shaped by external validation. The version of yourself that felt strong when surrounded by people. The version of yourself that felt safe when included. The version of yourself that measured success by how full your life looked from the outside. Letting go of that version feels like losing a part of yourself. Because in many ways, you are losing the habit of seeking your worth in places it was never meant to live. And this loss creates space. Space for a deeper kind of strength. Space for a quieter kind of confidence. Space for a more stable sense of identity. My dear brothers and sisters, think about how a tree grows. At first, it is supported by the environment around it. It is sheltered from strong winds. It leans on what is nearby. But as it grows, its roots must go deeper into the ground. If it does not, it will fall when the storms come. In the same way, as you grow, your roots must go deeper into something more stable than people. They must go into faith, into purpose, into your connection with Allah. And the process of deepening roots often involves standing alone. It involves facing winds without leaning on what is around you. It involves discovering that you can remain standing even when the familiar supports are no longer there. This is inner authority. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most beautiful signs of this authority being born is how you begin to treat yourself. You stop tolerating what disrespects your values. You stop chasing what costs you your peace. You stop explaining yourself to people who are not trying to understand you, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You begin to understand that your time, your energy, and your heart are trusts from Allah. They are not meant to be given to anything that drains you away from Him. This understanding brings a kind of calm into your life. A calm that does not come from having everything under control, but from knowing where you stand even when things feel uncertain. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also a spiritual side to this authority. You begin to feel a deeper responsibility for your own soul. You stop relying on the faith of others to carry you. You stop depending on the environment to keep you mindful of Allah. You begin to take ownership of your own relationship with Him. Your prayers become more personal. Your repentance becomes more sincere. Your gratitude becomes more thoughtful. Because now it is not about being seen as a good person. It is about being a servant who is trying sincerely to walk toward Allah. And this kind of faith gives you a quiet strength. A strength that does not need to announce itself. A strength that does not need to be defended. A strength that shows itself in how you respond to hardship, how you treat others, and how you carry yourself when no one is watching. My dear brothers and sisters, the pain of being pulled away also teaches you something about freedom. You realize that you are not obligated to stay where you are shrinking. You are not required to remain in spaces that make you forget who you are. You are not bound to relationships that keep you tied to an old version of yourself. This realization can feel frightening at first because freedom comes with responsibility. It means you must choose your path more carefully. You must decide what you stand for. You must define what matters to you, and you must be willing to walk that path even if others do not join you. But in this responsibility, there is dignity, there is strength, there is a sense of ownership over your own life that cannot be given by anyone else. My dear brothers and sisters, as this inner authority grows, you may notice that you become more patient with others. Not because you accept everything, but because you understand that everyone is on their own journey. You stop trying to control how others see you. You stop trying to convince people to grow with you. You stop trying to drag anyone forward. And instead, you focus on walking your own path with sincerity. This brings peace because you are no longer in constant struggle with the world. You are in conversation with your own soul. And in that conversation, Allah is present. One day, my dear brothers and sisters, you will look back at this season of being pulled away and realize something remarkable. You were not being diminished, you were being defined. Defined not by who stood beside you, not by who stayed or who left, but by who you chose to be when the room became quiet. You will see that this pain was not meant to break you, it was meant to shape you. To give you a sense of self that does not collapse when people move on. To give you a sense of worth that does not disappear when attention fades. To give you a sense of purpose that does not depend on approval. And when you step into new spaces, new relationships, and new opportunities, you will walk differently. not as someone searching for a place to belong, but as someone who already knows where they stand. You will bring calm into chaos, clarity into confusion, stability into uncertainty, because you are no longer leaning on the world to hold you up. You are standing firmly with Allah as your foundation. So if today you feel this pain of being pulled away, do not rush to escape it. Do not try to fill the space too quickly. Let it teach you, let it shape you, let it introduce you to a version of yourself that is not dependent on being surrounded, included, or approved. Because this version of you is strong, this version of you is grounded. This version of you is capable of walking through life with dignity, faith, and purpose. And this, my dear brothers and sisters, is the true birth of inner authority. Not the authority of power, but the authority of peace. Not the authority of control, but the authority of knowing deep in your heart that wherever you go and whatever changes around you, you remain anchored in Allah. And with that anchor, you will never truly be lost. Lesson 6. Allah is removing distractions before He reveals your true direction. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a moment in life that feels like standing in an open field with no clear road in front of you. You look around and you do not see the signs you expected. You do not feel the excitement you once had for the things you used to chase. The goals that once kept you awake at night now feel distant. The dreams that once burned inside you now feel quiet, and you begin to worry. You say to yourself, have I lost my motivation? Have I become weak? Have I stopped caring? But let me share something with you gently. Sometimes Allah does not take away your direction. He takes away your distractions first. Because as long as the heart is busy running in many directions, it cannot walk clearly in one. We live in a world that constantly pulls the heart in different ways. There is always something new to want, something new to chase, something new to compare yourself to. And without realizing it, the heart becomes tired, not physically tired, but spiritually tired, emotionally tired, mentally tired. Tired of wanting too many things at once, tired of being pulled by too many expectations, tired of trying to be everything at the same time. So Allah, in His mercy, begins to simplify your life. Not always by changing what is around you, but by changing what you care about. You may notice that certain things no longer excite you. Certain conversations no longer hold your attention. Certain plans no longer feel worth the effort. And at first, this can feel like emptiness. But what if this is not emptiness? What if this is space? Space that Allah is creating so He can place something more meaningful inside your heart. My dear brothers and sisters, think about how a cup is filled. If the cup is already full of many different things, nothing new can be poured into it without something spilling out. In the same way, when the heart is full of distractions, there is no room for direction. So Allah begins to gently empty the cup. He removes the constant pull toward things that do not last. He softens your attachment to what once felt urgent. He slows your desire for what once felt essential. And in that slowing down, you begin to feel a quiet inside you that you are not used to. This quiet can feel uncomfortable because it forces you to face the question, if I am not chasing what I used to chase, then what am I meant to chase now? And this is a powerful question. It is the beginning of purpose. My dear brothers and sisters, true direction in life does not come from copying what everyone else is doing. It does not come from following the loudest voices. It does not come from chasing what looks impressive on the outside. True direction comes from alignment. Alignment between what your heart values and what Allah loves. And that kind of alignment requires space. It requires silence. It requires a slowing down of the world around you so the heart can recognize what it truly needs. This is why Allah sometimes removes distractions before He reveals direction. Because if He showed you the path while your heart was still chasing everything else, you might walk past it without even noticing. You might be too busy to listen, too busy to reflect, too busy to commit. So He prepares you first. He prepares your heart to receive guidance. My dear brothers and sisters, this season of fewer distractions can show itself in many ways. You may find that you are less interested in being constantly entertained, less drawn to endless scrolling, endless talking, endless planning. You may feel a desire for more quiet moments, more time to think, more time to sit with yourself, more time to connect with Allah. And this desire is not a sign of withdrawal from life. It is a sign of turning toward meaning. In this quieter state, you begin to notice things you missed before. You notice how your heart feels after certain actions. You notice which choices bring you peace and which ones leave you restless. You notice how your connection with Allah rises and falls with how you spend your time. This awareness is a form of guidance, because before Allah gives you a clear direction to walk in, He gives you clarity about what pulls you away from Him. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also a lesson in how Allah removes distractions gradually. He does not always take everything away at once. He lets things lose their shine. He lets attachments slowly weaken. He lets desires fade gently, because sudden change can break the heart, but gradual change teaches the heart. You begin to realize step by step that some of the things you were holding on to were not as important as you thought. Some of the goals you were chasing were not as fulfilling as you expected. Some of the paths you were considering were not as meaningful as they looked from a distance. And this realization does not come as a shock. It comes as a quiet understanding, a kind of inner shift, a sense that says there must be something more. And that sense is often the beginning of a deeper search. A search not for success, but for significance. Not for recognition, but for sincerity. Not for a life that looks good, but for a life that feels right before Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, let me share something important with you. Distractions are not always bad things. Sometimes they are good things that are not meant to be the main thing. Family, work, goals, friendships, hobbies, ambitions, all of these can be blessings. But when they become the center of your life instead of Allah, they become distractions. Not because they are wrong, but because they are in the wrong place. So Allah, in His wisdom, gently rearranges your priorities. He does not always remove the blessings. Sometimes He simply moves them to their proper place in your heart. And when that happens, you begin to live with balance instead of restlessness, with purpose instead of pressure, with gratitude instead of constant hunger for more. My dear brothers and sisters, as distractions fall away, you may feel a strange mix of emotions. Relief because life feels simpler, and fear because you are not sure what comes next. This is a natural part of the process, because direction requires trust. Trust that Allah is not emptying your life without a plan. Trust that He is not removing your attachments without intending to replace them with something better aligned with your soul. Trust that even when you do not see the road ahead, the one guiding you sees it clearly. In this season, your relationship with Allah often deepens. You find yourself turning to Him more often, not just in moments of need, but in moments of reflection. You begin to ask Him for guidance, not just for ease. You begin to seek His pleasure, not just His help. And this changes the way you make decisions. You start to think less about what is easiest and more about what is right. Less about what is popular and more about what is meaningful. Less about what will impress others and more about what will please Allah. This is the heart being trained to recognize direction. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also something freeing about having fewer distractions. You realize how much energy you were spending on things that did not truly move you forward. You realize how often you were busy but not fulfilled, active but not aligned, surrounded but not centered. And when that energy is released, you suddenly have room for things that truly matter. Room for learning, room for growth, room for worship, room for serving others with sincerity rather than exhaustion, room for becoming a better version of yourself, not just a busier one. This is why Allah sometimes slows your life down before He moves it forward, because speed without direction only takes you further from where you need to be. But patience with guidance takes you exactly where you are meant to go. My dear brothers and sisters, one day you will look back at this season when things felt quieter, simpler, and less exciting on the surface. And you will realize that this was the season when your heart was being tuned away from what is temporary, tuned toward what is lasting, tuned away from what only fills time, tuned toward what fills the soul. You will see that Allah was not taking something away from you to leave you with nothing. He was clearing a path so you could finally see where to walk. So if today you feel less pulled by the world and more drawn to stillness, do not be afraid of that feeling. Do not rush to fill the space with noise. Sit in it, pray in it, reflect in it. because this space may be where Allah is preparing to show you something about your life that you could not see before. And let me leave you with this gentle reminder. Direction does not always arrive as a loud command. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet pull. A pull toward what feels right rather than what looks impressive. A pull toward what brings peace rather than what brings praise. A pull toward Allah rather than toward the world. If you feel that pull, my dear brothers and sisters, take it seriously. It may be the sign that Allah is no longer letting you wander. He is inviting you to walk. And when you walk with Him, even a path that is simple can lead to a destination that is extraordinary. Lesson 7. Your smaller circle is a sign of a greater purpose ahead. My dear brothers and sisters, there comes a moment in life when you look around and realize that the circle you once stood in has quietly become smaller. The voices that used to fill your days have softened. The invitations that once came easily now arrive less often. The constant presence of people, plans, and shared moments has slowly faded into something quieter, simpler, and more still. And the heart naturally asks, why is this happening to me? Because we are taught in many ways that a full life looks like a full room, that success looks like being known by many, that happiness looks like always being surrounded. But let me share something with you gently. A meaningful life does not always look crowded. Sometimes it looks focused. When Allah begins to prepare a person for something greater, He often simplifies what surrounds them. Not because He wants them to feel lonely, but because He wants them to see clearly. A crowded space can be warm, but it can also be distracting. A loud room can be lively, but it can also make it hard to hear what truly matters. So Allah, in His wisdom, sometimes creates quiet around you. And in that quiet, your purpose begins to speak. My dear brothers and sisters, a smaller circle does not mean you are losing people. It often means you are gaining direction. When there are fewer voices in your ear, it becomes easier to recognize which ones carry sincerity. When there are fewer influences around you, it becomes easier to notice which ones bring you closer to Allah and which ones pull you away. You begin to see the difference between those who enjoy your presence and those who care about your growth, between those who like what you offer and those who respect who you are. This awareness does not always come in a dramatic moment. It grows slowly through reflection, through experience, through moments of choosing between what is easy and what is right. And as this awareness grows, your circle naturally changes. Not through conflict, not through arguments, but through alignment. You start to feel closer to those who share your values, even if they are few. You start to feel distant from spaces that no longer reflect who you are becoming, even if they are many. This is not rejection, this is refinement. My dear brothers and sisters, think about how something precious is handled. It is not passed through many hands. It is not placed in noisy, careless spaces. It is protected. It is kept safe. It is handled with intention. Your heart is precious. Your time is precious. Your energy is precious. And when Allah has something meaningful planned for you, He becomes careful about how those things are spent. A smaller circle means fewer people pulling on your attention, your emotions, and your decisions. It means more space for you to invest deeply rather than spread yourself thin. And depth is where purpose grows. Purpose does not grow in being everywhere. It grows in being fully present where you are meant to be. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also something humbling about a smaller circle. It teaches you that you are not meant to impress everyone. You are not meant to be understood by everyone. You are not meant to be followed by everyone. You are meant to be sincere before Allah. And sincerity does not require an audience. It requires a heart that is honest even in the quiet. When your circle becomes smaller, you begin to notice how you show up in relationships. You become more intentional with your words, more thoughtful with your actions, more present in your time, because you are no longer rushing from one connection to another. You are investing in the few that remain. And this investment creates bonds that are stronger, deeper, and more meaningful than many surface-level connections ever could be. My dear brothers and sisters, a smaller circle also reveals something about your relationship with yourself. When you are not constantly surrounded, you spend more time in your own company. And at first, this can feel uncomfortable. because being alone with your thoughts forces you to listen to them. You begin to hear your own doubts, your own hopes, your own fears, and your own dreams more clearly. But in this listening, something beautiful happens. You begin to understand yourself better. You begin to see what truly matters to you, not just what matters to those around you. And this self-understanding becomes a guide. It helps you make choices that are aligned with your values rather than driven by pressure. It helps you walk a path that feels true rather than simply popular. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a spiritual layer to the smaller circle that many people overlook. When there are fewer people around, there is often more room for Allah, more room for prayer, more room for reflection, more room for gratitude, more room for asking deeper questions about your life and your purpose. This does not mean you withdraw from the world. It means you engage with it from a place of clarity rather than confusion, from a place of intention rather than impulse, from a place of faith rather than fear. And this changes the way you move through your days. You become less reactive, less easily influenced, less shaken by trends, opinions, and comparisons, because you are anchored in something deeper. My dear brothers and sisters, a greater purpose often requires a quieter preparation. If you are being prepared for something that will carry responsibility, impact, and influence, Allah may first teach you how to be comfortable in the quiet. Because a person who cannot stand still in silence will struggle to stand firm in pressure. The quiet season teaches patience, it teaches discipline, it teaches humility. It teaches reliance on Allah rather than on constant validation. These qualities are not built in crowds. They are built in moments when it is just you, your intentions, and your Lord. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also a test in having a smaller circle, a test of sincerity. You begin to see whether you still do good when no one is watching, whether you still strive to improve when no one is praising, whether you still turn to Allah when no one is reminding you. And passing this test builds a kind of character that does not change with the size of the room. It remains steady in public and in private. This is a sign of maturity, a sign of spiritual strength. My dear brothers and sisters, one day you will look back at this season and realize that it was not a season of being left out. It was a season of being set apart to grow in ways that would not have been possible if life had remained crowded. Set apart to develop clarity, patience, and purpose. Set apart to build a connection with Allah that is personal, steady, and strong. And when your life becomes fuller again, when new people enter your world, when new opportunities arise, you will walk into them differently. Not as someone seeking to be included, but as someone who knows what they stand for. Not as someone looking for a place to belong, but as someone who carries belonging within their faith. My dear brothers and sisters, do not measure the value of your life by how many people are around you. Measure it by how close you are to Allah. Because in the end, it is not the size of your circle that will guide you. It is the sincerity of your heart. And let me leave you with this gentle reminder. A smaller circle is not a sign that your life is getting smaller. It is often a sign that your purpose is getting bigger. Allah may be clearing space around you so that when the time comes, you can step into what He has prepared for you with focus, humility, and strength. So if today you find yourself walking with fewer people beside you, walk with confidence. Not in yourself, but in the one who is guiding your steps. Because when Allah walks with you, my dear brothers and sisters, no path is ever truly lonely. It is simply leading you somewhere that requires you to arrive with clarity, sincerity, and a heart ready to carry something greater than you have ever carried before. This season of quiet is Allah preparing you for a louder impact. My dear brothers and sisters, there is something deeply misunderstood about quiet seasons in life. Many people see silence as stagnation. They see stillness as being left behind. They see invisibility as being forgotten. But in the wisdom of Allah, quiet is often the place where the most powerful work is being done. Think about how Allah creates in the world around you. The seed grows underground before it ever breaks the surface. The child develops in the womb before taking their first breath. The night stretches long before the light of dawn appears. In all of these, the most important work happens when no one is watching. And in the same way, the most important work in your life often happens in seasons when you feel unseen. My dear brothers and sisters, this quiet you are experiencing is not emptiness. It is preparation. When Allah intends to give someone a greater role, a deeper responsibility, or a more meaningful impact, He often begins by teaching them how to be small in their own eyes. Not small in worth, but small in ego. Small in need for recognition. Small in hunger for praise. Because a person who is driven by applause will struggle when the weight of responsibility arrives. And a person who needs constant attention will find it difficult to carry something that requires patience, humility, and endurance. So Allah trains you in the quiet. He places you in moments where no one claps for your efforts, where no one notices your struggles, where no one sees the effort you put into becoming better, kinder, more patient, more sincere. And in these moments you learn a powerful lesson. You learn how to do good without being seen, how to stay faithful without being praised, how to remain consistent without being celebrated. This kind of character cannot be built on a stage. It is built in the unseen. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also something deeply humbling about being prepared in silence. It reminds you that your life is not a performance. It is a trust given to you by Allah to carry your faith, your character, and your responsibilities with sincerity. When you live in the quiet, you begin to measure success differently. Not by how many people know your name, but by how close you are to Allah when no one else is near. Not by how impressive your life looks, but by how honest your intentions are. This shift in perspective changes the way you see everything. You stop chasing moments. You start building a life. You stop running after recognition. You start focusing on contribution. My dear brothers and sisters, a louder impact does not always mean a louder voice. Sometimes it means a deeper presence, a presence that brings calm into chaos, a presence that brings clarity into confusion, a presence that brings hope into spaces that feel heavy. But to become that kind of presence, you must first learn how to carry stillness within you. Because a person who cannot find peace in the quiet will struggle to bring peace into the noise. This is why Allah allows you to sit in this season of silence. He is teaching your heart how to be steady, how to be patient, how to be anchored in Him rather than in circumstances. So that when your life becomes fuller again, when more people enter your world, when more responsibilities fall on your shoulders, you do not lose yourself. You carry the quiet with you. You carry the connection with Allah into every room you enter. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also a layer of trust being built in this season. Trust in Allah's timing, trust in Allah's wisdom, trust in Allah's plan, even when you do not see it clearly. You may wonder why things are not moving faster, why opportunities have not appeared yet, why your life feels paused while others seem to be moving forward. But what you cannot see is what Allah is protecting you from by not rushing your journey. A person who is given influence before they have humility can be damaged by it. A person who is given responsibility before they have patience can be crushed by it. A person who is given attention before they have sincerity can be lost in it. So Allah waits, not because He has forgotten you, but because He remembers you too well. He knows what you will carry, and He knows what you need to become before you can carry it. My dear brothers and sisters, the quiet season also teaches you how to listen. Not just to people, but to your own heart. You begin to notice when something feels off, when a decision does not sit right, when a path does not align with your values. This sensitivity is a form of guidance. It is Allah training your heart to recognize what draws you closer to Him and what pulls you away. And this training becomes invaluable when life becomes louder, when choices become bigger, when the stakes become higher. You will not need to rely only on what looks good on the outside. You will have an inner compass that points you toward what feels right before Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, there is also a deep sense of gratitude that grows in the quiet. When you are not surrounded by constant excitement, you begin to appreciate small things. A peaceful moment of prayer, a kind word from someone who truly cares, a calm morning, a night where your heart feels at rest. These simple moments become meaningful, and this gratitude shapes the way you experience life. You become less demanding, less entitled, more thankful. And a thankful heart is a powerful heart. It sees blessings where others see nothing. It finds peace where others find restlessness. It carries light into places that feel dark. This is part of the louder impact Allah is preparing you for. Not an impact built on being impressive, but an impact built on being sincere. My dear brothers and sisters, one day when this season changes, you will look back and realize that this quiet was not empty time. It was training. Training in patience, training in humility, training in reliance on Allah, training in knowing who you are without a crowd around you. And when your life becomes fuller again, when your voice is heard more, when your actions reach further, you will move differently. You will speak with more care. You will act with more intention. You will lead with more compassion, because you were shaped in a place where there was no applause, only accountability before Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, do not rush this season. Do not wish it away too quickly. There are lessons in this quiet that cannot be learnt in any other way. There is strength being built in you that will carry you through moments you cannot yet imagine. There is wisdom being planted in your heart that will guide you when the path becomes more complex. There is a connection with Allah being deepened that will sustain you when the weight of responsibility grows heavier. And let me leave you with this gentle thought. A louder impact does not begin with a louder life. It begins with a quieter heart. A heart that knows where it stands. A heart that knows who it belongs to. A heart that has learned in the stillness how to listen to Allah above all other voices. If you carry that heart into whatever comes next, my dear brothers and sisters, your presence will speak even when you are silent. Your actions will guide even when you do not explain. And your life will leave a mark, not because it was loud, but because it was aligned with something far greater than the world could ever offer. So stay patient in this quiet. Stay sincere in this space. Stay close to Allah in this season, because what He is preparing in you now may one day touch lives in ways you cannot yet see. And when that day comes, you will understand that this silence was not a delay. It was the foundation. You were not left, you were led. My dear brothers and sisters, if you remember nothing else from this moment, remember this. You were not abandoned. You were guided. You were not forgotten. You were being prepared. This feeling of being pulled away is not a sign that your life is shrinking. It is a sign that your soul is deepening. Stay patient in this quiet. Stay sincere in this space. Stay close to Allah in this season. Because when He brings people back into your life, when He opens new doors, when He places you in new opportunities, you will walk into them as someone stronger, calmer, and more anchored than before. May Allah grant you peace in your heart, light in your path, and a closeness to Him that no distance in this world can ever take away.